Let's check in now on the talk front. We're joined as ever on a Monday now by Macquarie radio host and Herald Sun columnist, Justin Smith. Justin, I was going to turn to the wall there, sorry to talk to you, but I realise we're no wall today. I'm talking to you down these little boxes. Lots to talk about in your bailiwick of Melbourne in a moment, but first up, this national scandal, which of course a lot of this emanates from Melbourne anyway. These spying revelations are just extraordinary.
Oh, it's amazing, isn't it? And I think it's something I've said before, but I think the biggest problem is that we like the Chinese people. I mean, we love the Chinese people, particularly here in Australia. They make a great contribution, but we do not trust and never will trust the party machines in China. We don't trust the government at all. So when we see these revelations come out, firstly, I think we believe them, and secondly, they scare the hell out of us.
Yeah, this is literally the stuff out of the spy novels. I mean, there are claims here, and we've just heard from Paul Monk, who's got impeccable pedigree in this area. He is a former intelligence analyst and knows it backwards, and that you've got to be suspicious of the possibility that Chinese agents have been involved in a murder here because someone was blowing their deal, was ratting on them to ASIO. This is, of course, a death in a Melbourne hotel. I mean, this is extraordinary stuff.
Yeah, and when we see it roll out, you know, and a good job to 9 to 60 minutes on the show last night, particularly to Nick McKenzie. And when you see that roll out, the biggest problem is you seem to believe all of it. I mean, nothing of it seems, even though, as you say, it comes out of a spy novel, it all just seems incredibly believable, and that's probably actually the scariest thing about it. Nothing of it seems too much of a stretch, and hopefully we can get to the bottom of it. Now, hopefully Australia can control it. Hopefully we can, you know, have a say in our future, and we don't let other countries run it.
Well, I think the biggest problem here is what damage it does to the relationship. Now, I don't say we, you know, I'm not at the Paul Keating school where we should be sort of just kowtowing to China at all. We've got to stand up for our values and stand up against these sorts of things. But they can escalate out of hand pretty soon. You can have diplomats expelled and tit-for-tat operations like that. What you want is to deal with this thing systematically, and you want to make sure that our economic relationship continues on untouched. And that's going to be a real challenge for Scott Morrison and his team, given how many issues are around at the moment.
Yeah, it sure is, and we've got to be... You're walking that tightrope, aren't you, where we need to be, we need to protect ourselves, but also we can't destroy these relationships. We just can't sit out here as an island all on our own. No country can, and we need China. You know, we desperately need the China dollars. We need their help. So, you know, we can't be sitting out here on our own, but we've got to have control over our own country. We can't let them take that away from us. Yeah,
fascinating stuff and deeply worrying. Let's get on to some other issues now. And there was a lot of people talking up the heroin injecting room in Richmond in Melbourne when it was first established, going back a little while. A lot of people opposed to it. But, gee, we've seen some ugly stuff in the last couple of months. Justin, there was revelations, there are allegations before the courts now that people working in the heroin injecting room were actually drug dealers. And now we've had a tragic death of an overdose of just a 15-year-old boy just a couple of 100 metres away from the safe injecting room.
Yeah, I'm not sure about I think the case still needs to unfold about the 15-year-old boy, because there are heroin deaths everywhere, and this just happens to be, and this is a heroin hotspot, one of the reasons why the safe injecting room is there. He died 300 metres away from it. Look, I'm not against the safe injecting room. I think it's got to be very tight, though. There needs to be a lot of regulation and a lot of oversight on it. But I'm not against the safe injecting rooms, because I think the plan is to try and save lives. This is not to encourage drug taking. This is not about recreational drug taking. This is about people that are really in trouble. But I wonder if the location is right. I wonder if it is being overseen correctly. Probably more the I think the existence of it is good. I think we actually do need it.
The road to hell is
right.
paved with good intentions, and nobody has a trouble with the intentions of saving lives. But the evidence so far is it's very problematic, particularly, as I say, when you've got people working in the injecting room who then are prosecuted as drug dealers.
Yeah, well, I'm not. Yeah, well, I think that's appalling. That's indefensible. But I'm not sure what evidence you're talking about. I wonder, you know, what lives have been saved and how much better people are off, the heroin users. And again, this is not about encouraging people to use heroin. This is about people that are already well and truly in deep with this awful drug. It's not the only solution. It's just one part of it. I do like the concept of it. I think we just got to do it right. That's all.
All right, lots of coverage, not just in Melbourne, but across the country over the weekend about Daniel Andrews' anniversary, going into his 10th year as Labor leader. He's been a pretty successful leader.
Yes, he has. There's absolutely no doubt about it. He has been in a pretty tough job for quite a while, and what's more is he won the last election, giving the opposition an absolute thumping. So...
He's pretty lucky, wasn't he? He's pretty lucky given the opposition he was up against, because he had a pretty torrid time, especially over the last year or so leading up to that election. But he seems to have been gifted with a very, very feeble opposition. Oh,
yeah, no, absolute duds, a total party of duds that really didn't lay even a glove on him, which isn't going to help, because there's a great deal of arrogance in the Andrews government as well. It is piles of it. There are certain sections of the media that they just won't talk to. You have a lot of difficulty as a journalist getting any answers out of them, getting even a return phone call. There's a lot of arrogance, and the reason why that arrogance is there is because we've got such a bloody awful opposition in Victoria. I'd really like to see them not necessarily win government, but I'd like to see them do a hell of a lot better and become more effective, because the system will work better, be better for people.
Yep, you need a strong, you need a strong opposition. Just quickly, Justin, Steve Bracks, the former Labor Premier of Victoria, is back in the news. He's talking up grand plans for the city. Why is he doing this? Is this just his own hobby horse, or has he got a position that he's exercising here?
Well, Steve Bracks is talking about the West. Now, anyone who knows Steve Bracks knows that he's a real champion of the West. He was the member in Williamstown and still lives, I believe, in Williamstown, and is like to see government departments opening up there. I think he wants to see a section of the National Gallery opening up in the West. I think it's a fantastic idea, and dragging more jobs into that area and spreading out the city a little bit more. We're so central sometimes in Melbourne, very much different to Sydney in that way. We become very central in Melbourne. I like the idea of this spreading out a little bit.
Spreading out indeed. The West, I always love it. You reckon the AFL's very Melbourne-centric? They call the team the Western Bulldogs, but there's 5 teams further west of them that they've forgotten about. Thanks for joining us, Justin. Appreciate it.